Randy, we're going to stay hooping. Hey, big basketball game tonight. Big one down there in the Lone Star Game 5 of the NBA Finals.
One by the Spurs. Here we go.
They can lift the Larry O. They got a 3-1 series lead. How did we get here? Jalen Brunson had 13 of his 30 points in the fourth quarter to kickstart the Knicks' 14-point comeback in Game 1 as New York finished the game on an 11-0 run, the longest run to end a finals game since 2017. New York coming back in Game 2 after being down 12 points. They took it second game in San Antonio, extending their road playoff win streak to 8, tied with the 2001 Lakers for longest road win streak within a season. Series shifting in Game 3. Wemby becoming the second youngest player with a 30-point, 5-board, 5-assist finals game. He and Steph Castle combining for 55 to cut the Knicks' finals lead to 2-1 and snap New York's 13-game playoff win streak in the process. And if those comebacks weren't big enough, the Knicks pulled off the largest in finals history in Game 4, coming back from down 29 in the third quarter.
I think the biggest thing, honestly, for us was just being connected from the outset.
Spurs scoring 46 fewer points than they did in the first half. And that is how the New York Knicks are on the brink of winning the NBA championship for the first time in over 50 years as Quentin Richardson joins the program with us this morning. Q, take us into the Spurs locker room this morning. How do you regroup after the historic collapse in Game 4?
No other choice, fellas. It's do or die. You guys are in a win-or-go-home situation. They have no other choice but to rebound and come back and try and get this game. There's no time to feel sorry for yourself. There's no time for crying over spilled milk. That game is over with and done with. You can't get it back. You got to leave it in the past. And even though they're a very young team, they got to move forward and go forward with this game, just knowing they lost that one and gave it away.
OG Anunoby, Q, has certainly had a series to remember. If he balls out again and the Knicks win the title tonight, is OG your finals MVP?
It's tough. I mean, obviously, with JB Brunson averaging 29.5, he would have to have a very off game, and OG have a good game.
Called it hit.
And
Shift.
for me, I feel like if they win it tonight, JB will probably win it, and rightfully so with his scoring average. But I think regardless of what, OG is the people's champ, and I definitely think if JB slips and he falters and OG goes ahead and has a big time game, he's a straight-out MVP. But I think regardless, the people, he's a made man in New York. He will never be forgotten. That tip in will echo in the hall of the Knicks fame forever. That's going to be forever a made man shot, and OG is a made man in New York.
Somebody put it perfectly on Twitter. They said, if OG wins finals MVP, he'll be the LeBron James of Andre Iguodala finals MVPs. Quentin Richardson joining us this morning on SportsCenter. He's going to be kicking with us all morning this morning. Q, we'll see you in a bit.
Mitch Johnson and the Spurs used in Game 3, which was very effective, which was to have Victor, basically play the middle and then defend the nearest corner. The Knicks used that against him a little bit by really funneling the ball to the guy he was standing near to have him shoot the three. They repeatedly had Victor in rotation and were able to get shots off with him closing out. Seriously, there was, I think, 4 3-pointers that the Knicks made. I think they might have made they made a bunch in the fourth quarter, but there was at least 3 or 4 in the fourth quarter where Victor was the guy closing out.
Well, and you know what that does? That takes the Spurs' best defensive rebounder out of the picture.
Well, he was closing out to Brunson on the last.
Exactly.
Brunson missed that one, but they were able to do that.
But Brunson misses that, and then Wemby, and this, you can talk about fatigue in this too. As far out as Brunson is, once Brunson releases that, Wemby has to turn and sprint as hard as he can to even get back in the picture.
No win or go home.
To have a chance to rebound. He wasn't able to do that. Anunoby's able to slash in. I'm not sure if Fox was supposed to be doubling Brunson or not. If he did, he didn't double very hard, and that eliminated a body on Anunoby. So Anunoby's just able to slash in untouched and soar into the air, and as Kat called it, get the right hand of God up there for the tip.
Yeah, it seems like hand of God is what that's gonna. Seems like that's been the society's accepting of what that.
It's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
Well, Kat also pointed out you can't spell God without OG.
That is true.
Who's ever writing this stuff for Kat, if even if it's Kat himself, deserves a star.
That is true. It also goes back to the Spurs double teaming so hard down the stretch of the game and having Jose Alvarado out there, which, as you pointed out, thanks to our buddy Stats Williams Wednesday night, Brian, they hadn't done that the entire postseason. And having that release valve to go 4-on-3 against the Spurs behind that double team, it got the Spurs moving all over the place on defense. It had Victor moving even more. It got him wide open shots. And I just go back to the one of the main common denominators, besides obviously the Knicks having to make a lot of shots in the comeback against the Cavs and the comeback against the Spurs, is Jalen Brunson hit a couple shots. The opponent panicked and started going super hard with these double teams. And if I'm the Spurs and Jalen Brunson starts hitting shots, I'm having Jalen Brunson against Stephon Castle with Victor Wembanyama behind him. And I'm just going to bet on my defense keeping him from making 10 shots in a row. And I'm not letting OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges and Karl Towns and Jose Alvarado and Landry Shamet and all these other guys get clean looks from three. And I'm going to bet.
Well, that's how they played in Game 3, but they went away from it a little bit. Look, here's the thing. And De'Aaron Fox talked today about having to deal with the fallout of, basically three things that he did at the end of the game, which was obviously go for the layup, which got blocked. Fouls, Jose Alvarado, the take foul when they had him trapped, almost on the verge of a backcourt violation. Even if he brings the ball another foot and comes over the line, they have him in the worst position to be in. I think the Knicks probably end up having to call timeout there. He fouls there. He got on the take, on the give, foul to give, and then obviously he's got some level of responsibility for Anunoby. Anunoby goes to the basket. It was a bad. The greatness of the 3-4 minutes, whatever, that in real time that Anunoby had was the toughness that Fox had. And he talked about trying to ignore that and move on from it. And as much as you may want to blame him for whatever, they didn't lose that game because Anunoby got the tip in. They lost the game because they played 24 minutes of, poor basketball, especially offensive basketball.
The last moments were brutal for Fox, but they had blown a 29-point lead. They didn't blow the 29-point lead in the last 12 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, Mitch Johnson talked about today how he got asked what, watching the game back, what stood out to you the most about the struggles, in the fourth quarter. And he said, look, the bigger issue to me was the third quarter. Like, there were more disappointing moments there. It just didn't look as bad because we were up by so much. But it was a lot of the same thing that happened in Game 3 for the Knicks in reverse. The process at the start of the third quarter was really bad from San Antonio, and it allowed the Knicks to go on that, I think 14-2 run or 16-2 run or whatever. And they went from 29 down to 16, 17 points in the first half of the third quarter. All of a sudden then,
you just got to go back to the drawing board.
You got 18, 20 minutes to go in the game. It's a 15-point game. That feels a lot different than being down 30. And, that was the thing he harped on. So to your point, yeah, you can go back to individual plays in the final 90 seconds and say, oh, that really cost the Spurs. But it was just as bad when they gave up 14 points in 3 minutes in the third quarter and let the Knicks off the mat and back into the game.
Well, and their offense went to crap. And by the way, Fox had a hand in that. There was a lot of early shot clock, no pass or one pass threes. They stopped touching paint. Fox had some turnovers, whatever. But I